also with us on the phone line, because Farah, why is it a landmark ruling by the Supreme Court? Because it has clearly said even any pregnancy alleged to be caused by a force by a pregnant woman, it will now be termed as rape. That is also very importantly that has been pointed out by the court.
Actually, the verdict of Supreme Court is very well, and it is right, and it is in the favor of women. How can you say that you are the husband and you can use a wife or a woman who is your wife on this ground that she is your wife, and you can use in every way? So without the consent of a woman, you cannot use her. And it is a very, if you want to establish any sexual relation with her, so it is must that both the parties agree to develop this relation, this bond. If one party is not ready, so how is it possible that this relation would be good? So मेरा कहना यही है कि the Supreme Court verdict is right, and it is in favor of women. And ये जो consent है एक औरत की, ये होना ही चाहिए था.
Because Farah, अगर इससे forceful pregnancy भी हो जाए of a married woman, that will be treated as marital rape for the purpose of abortion. तो marital rape को भी एक तरीके से recognition मिली है within a marriage by the Supreme Court.
Yes. Or if you are using your wife without her consent and वो प्रेग्नेंट हो जाती है इस रिलेशन के बाद, तो यही हुआ ना कि उससे जो प्रेगनेंसी होती है तो वो भी उसकी कंसेंट नहीं थी उसके लिए. तो एंड शी हैज टू बियर फॉर दैट फॉर 9 months. तो इट इज नॉट राइट. इसलिए जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट की वर्डिक्ट है वो बिल्कुल सही है कि एक औरत की कंसेंट के बगैर इफ यू आर डूइंग दिस, तो इट शुड कम अंडर द रेप.
All right, Farah, thank you very much for joining in. It's a landmark verdict as a judgment that is being done on part of the Supreme Court there, because Nilashish, as far as the existing provisions in the Act are concerned, they do not allow a single woman also to go for abortion after 20 weeks. And even when it involves, when it comes to divorcees and widows and some other categories of women who are allowed a termination of pregnancy up to 24 weeks now on the advent, when it comes to mental anguish and other hardships as well. Brinda Agide, what's your point of view here?
The verdict that has come out today, one of the most progressive verdicts that has come out, especially when you look at so-called countries like America, where they have to go into far-off districts and abortion has become such a big challenge for women. Today, the court is also recognizing marital and the right of this woman to seek abortion, and which means the health, safety of this woman is paramount, and her right over her body, for her to decide and choose whether she wants the abortion or not, irrespective of a social status, married, unmarried, partner, spouse, living together, whatever it might be.
Right.
That has been, discounted and said that you as a woman can make that choice, which means she can now seek abortion in safety and with dignity.
Absolutely. Brinda, thank you very much for joining in. A landmark ruling on part of the Supreme Court there. Kasthuri ji, thank you very much for joining us here on the broadcast. The Supreme Court saying even when it comes to the marital status of a woman, that cannot be held as a ground to deprive her of a right to abort an unwanted pregnancy.
Yes. I applaud and appreciate our judicial system. As an Indian woman, today is a landmark day for the freedoms of our self-determination, I would say, in a time when even Western countries like many European countries and USA are getting regressive with their abortion laws. Thank goodness that in India, the woman still retains the right over her own body. Child rearing, while it is a function of two people involved, there are two partners involved in the decision to have and raise a child. In India, many times, we see that pregnancy is an unwanted pregnancy. It results in many, many social maladies. And if women are further victimized, further criminalized for choosing not to have that child, we are seeing that. We are seeing the malaise of how many unwanted children are being thrown after they are born into a lifetime of misery. Sometimes thrown into a garbage trash can, sometimes given away, sometimes trafficked. And today, by this judgment, one has taken away the stigma of terminating an unwanted pregnancy. Let it be any reason. There should not be any classifications and restriction on abortion. If there is an abortion that the family members do not agree with, that is for them to sort it out in a different
But also when it comes
action.
to a clear-cut definition, Kasthuri, is that needed especially to define what marital rape exactly is? Because there have been several takers who have been criticizing that such concept doesn't exist.
I do agree and acknowledge, and I think everybody should acknowledge that marital rape is a reality. However, one has to be careful criminalizing marital rape in the same way that we have criminalized domestic violence or other forms of rape and sexual battery. The reason being, in the institution of marriage, within the institution of marriage, it's very hard to prove and it's very hard to bring evidence against marital rape. I mean, how does one prove? There are many, many circumstances where, and this is a gender-neutral issue. It is not just that a husband can rape a wife or a wife can rape a husband, but in India, it's very hard to prove a man's innocence in the bedroom.
Absolutely.
So it is something we have to approach very, very carefully. But that said, there is no question that there are many, many unwanted pregnancies which result
But it is,
from
it is progressive. Such kind of reforms are needed. Kasthuri, thank you very much for your point of view, what you've been saying there, because Nilashish, it clearly points out to what the court has been also saying, that law in modern times is shedding the notion that marriage is a precondition for the rights of persons, especially when it comes to the MTP Act, Nilashish. It must consider the realities of today and must not be restricted to the old norms.
Yeah, so I have with me Amay Vikrama Thanvi. Can you just tell us what is the significance of today's judgment? Very, very significant.
The primary significance of this judgment is that this is entirely based, it's given you a reproductive rights perspective. So far all of these judgments, they had medical concerns, they had governance concerns, but today's judgment, it lays down that this is a woman's right. It is for her to decide when, how, if at all she wishes to terminate her pregnancy, and whatever her circumstances are. Also, what is really worth noticing is the point of her surroundings and the aspect of mental health, which she very clearly says that not just clinical mental health, but also whatever her societal circumstances are.
Precisely. Also, the aspect of marital rape being recognized as something that is to do, that should be a reason for allowing pregnancy to be aborted.
That's a very bold, brilliant step ahead in the entire marital rape debate, because that's still a grey area of law. So for the court to acknowledge that there are abusive marriages and these are relations from which women may not want to bear children is a very, very poignant point of this judgment.
All right, Nilashish, thank you very much for that. Let's cross